And it's Mrs. Joyce again. So this week we're going to be planning your speech, and you're actually going to be writing it at home in your home learning after you've watched this PowerPoint. Now, obviously, same as normal, if you are not in school, this PowerPoint is for you. If you are in school, don't watch this until after you have been into school. You don't need to watch this. It's exactly the same lesson you'll have done at school. It just gives you a little bit of maybe recap of what you're doing. Same as normal, if you want to contact your teacher about anything in this, make sure you're either emailing them or using Show My Homework comments. If you are in school and you want a little bit of extra support, you can either contact the teacher that's in front of you via their email, or you can contact your teacher that is your regular teacher via Show My Homework. Section 1, as it's now called, because it's got a swanky new name. Okay, so what we're going to look at today is how we're making sure our speech fits the criteria so that we get an amazing mark and we are very happy and we don't have to worry about doing this again. Awesome. So here we go. So first things first, a little bit of a warm up, information that you should have got from last week's lesson. Okay. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to match the green box to a yellow box to a red box. The green box is the term. The yellow box is the definition. The red box is an example. So I'd like you to pause the video now and get on with that. Okay, thank you very much. Awesome. So let's go through them. So ethos. Now, ethos I like to remember, because when we talk about the word ethos, when we're talking about you as a person, ethos means what you feel. You know, what is your passion? What is your central goal? Who are you as a person? Which is why it works very well, because it's about showing your audience why you are worth listening to. What is your central value? Okay. Why are you worth listening to? And the example of that is that I have visited over half the world in my time as a journalist, because it's showing the audience why you're worth listening to. Logos, and I think of logos, I think of logic. Logic is looking for facts and evidence, so logos is evidence, facts, and information, surprisingly enough. And when we're looking for an example of that, the Titanic sank in 1912. Useful piece of information that you may find. So, finally, pathos. Pathos, I have no easy way of remembering it. It's quite simply the one that's not the other two, and that is emotion. Appealing to the audience's emotion. And we know that that one is, do you want to be remembered for your successes or your failures? It's very similar to something that Leonardo DiCaprio mentioned in the speech that we looked at last week. It's appealing to the audience's emotions. It's making them feel something. It doesn't always have to be sad or angry. It could be something very positive. It could be something like happiness or humor. Okay, so what we're going to do today. Last lesson, we looked at the best ways to convey your message to your audience. We looked at humor, and we looked at irony, we looked at sarcasm, but we also looked at some more serious stuff. And we thought about, what would work best for your topic, okay? Because everybody's topic is different. We also created a skeleton speech plan of your speech. So that was the TED Talk plan, where you had the title, then you had the hook, etc., etc. And this lesson, we're going to be finalising your topic. Everybody should have a topic right now. If you don't have a topic, contact your teacher immediately and talk to them, because you need a topic. Read through the success criteria. That's on the next slide. You do have a paper copy of that on Show My Homework, so you should be able to pick that up and have a read through. It's going to be on the next slide as well, though. Complete your planning sheet. Again, that's on Show My Homework. If you've been into school, you should have been given one. And share ideas with the group. Today, I really want us to focus on talking to each other. Those of you who are at home and are not in class at any point, there are two ways you can do this. The first thing is you can go and speak to anybody in your family, anyone. Phone your nan if you want to tell her about it. I don't mind. I want you to talk to people about this. The other way you can do it is, instead of phoning your nan, phone somebody else in your group. Okay, use your phone, you've got them, you know that they're there. You use WhatsApp if you want to see somebody's face, but talk to each other about the work you're doing. Spitball ideas, come up with things about each other. Okay, talk to each other. It's vital for this. So, the success criteria. How do we do well? So this is what AQA tell us we have to look for as teachers. The general criteria, so in order to do anything with it and to not be stopped and be asked to do it again, first of all, you need to be audible. You have to talk clearly. We don't want you shouting like that mad politician, but it needs to be clear. It needs to be at a reasonable pace. We don't want you guys so fast you can't understand a single word you're saying. We don't want you so quiet, we can't hear you. Okay? So you need to be audible. You then need to use spoken standard English, which means that you need to be intelligible. So you need to use the sort of English that you hear on television in most cases. So standard English. We want to avoid slang unless it's being used for effect. Okay? You need to be clear and generally use language appropriate for the formal setting of the presentation. As much as we all love a good in it, bruv, we need to focus on being formal. Also, there is no swearing. There is no, don't want any silly noises. You need to be talking as if you're talking to a grown-up audience, because you're talking to a bunch of your peers, but you are also talking to a teacher. So if you remember that you're talking to a teacher, that should probably help. Now, in order to get the 3 grades, you also need to do these things. You need to express straightforward ideas, information, or feelings, okay, to get a pass. That's basically, tell me what you're interested in. You need to have made an attempt to organise and structure your presentation. So that is thinking about what happens at the beginning, what happens at the middle, what happens at the end. You need to make an attempt to meet the needs of your audience. So at this point, I'm thinking about looking up at your audience. I'm thinking about talking about something that if they don't know anything about it, helping them to understand. And if they do know something about it, helping them to feel that you are talking to them. And then you need to listen to questions or feedback and provide an appropriate response in a straightforward manner. You will be asked questions by your audience. It's part of what we have to do. And if your audience aren't going to ask you, your teacher will ask you. So, appropriate response. Okay? If somebody asks you a question, you respond to it. You might want to ask them to clarify things. You might want to say, I'm sorry, I don't quite get that. Can you rephrase it? And basically something a little bit more than a yes or no answer, ideally. Okay? So, to get a merit, next stage up. Challenging ideas, information, feelings, using a range of vocabulary. Okay, so this is when we start thinking about something a little bit more exciting, a little bit more interesting than some of the very basic things. Okay, moving on from things like why I think school uniform is rubbish because I don't like wearing trousers. Yeah. And a range of vocabulary. Okay, so thinking about your word choice. Organize and structure your presentation clearly and appropriately to meet the needs of the audience. So thinking about where you're going to take breaths, where you're going to have that one-line paragraph. Are you going to come back to things? Are you going to repeat ideas? That sort of thing. Really thinking about what the purpose of your structure is. Achieves the purpose of his or her presentation. So if you are giving information, your audience needs to feel informed. If you are persuading, your audience needs to understand why you feel the way you feel. Okay? You've got to do what you're aiming for to get a merit. And then listening to questions and feedback, responding formally and in some detail. So we want quite a bit of chat from a question, okay? And also less of the like and ish and stuff, okay? Thinking carefully. And to get a distinction, to absolutely knock the ball out of the park and kick butt, we need to do these things. Sophisticated ideas, information, feelings, using a sophisticated repertoire of vocabulary. This is about passion, okay? Talking about something that truly interests you, that pushes you to the point of, I have done my absolute best to make this amazing. Organizes and structures his or her presentation using an effective range of strategies to engage the audience and achieves the purpose of his or her presentation. Well, we know what achieves the purpose of the presentation means, but the effective range of strategies. So that is using humor, using irony, using rhetorical questions, thinking about when we're going to use those epistrophes. Are we going to use anaphora at any point? Really, really pushing the limits of your presentation skills, okay? And also thinking about strategies like eye contact, like pausing and moving from first person to third person narrative with a little bit of second person in there as well. Really thinking about how you've constructed this. And then listens to questions and feedback, responds perceptively, and if appropriate, elaborates with further ideas and information. So that's being given a question and taking that question and making it into something different. Okay, so that's moving it further. So if somebody asks you a question, you answer that question, and then you maybe add a little bit of extra information that they haven't maybe asked for, but clarifies things even more for you. Okay, all of this is on your sheet, and you'll see it's actually a mark sheet. And what will happen when you actually do your speech is you'll bring that mark sheet into school, and your teacher will tick where they think you've done well, and you will have your mark that way. Okay, so what are you on about? So at this point, if you're at home and you haven't been in school, I would like you to pause the video, go and find your phone, and I'd like you to phone someone and tell them what your topic is. Have a chat with them, have a think about whether your idea is going to work and how your idea is going to work, and actually really talk about it. If you're in school, that's where we're going to have a conversation, and no one's getting away with not talking to me. Okay, so planning. What do I need to know? So you need to do the following things, and this is all on your planning sheet, okay? You need to know the title of your speech. You need your thesis statement. I want to know what your message is. Now, we had that in last lesson. What do you want people to come away with at the end of your speech? What do you want them to know? And then your 3 main points, okay? Now, in each point that you make about your topic, in your speech, I'd like you to think about how you're going to improve your ethos, how you're going to get people to listen to you with anecdotes and little bit of personal information. Logos, are you going to have some facts in there? Opinions of experts, etc. And pathos, how are you going to get that emotional reaction? Okay. Now, all 3 points may not have all 3 of those in them. You may find you're only using ethos in your first point. But it's useful to pepper them in to really think about where you're using them, because this is where the structure comes in. And then a point about the opposing opinion and why it's rubbish. Okay. Think back to that very first lesson when we had those sentences on the board where we were talking about a commonly expressed opinion would be, and then you proceeded to say, yeah, but that's rubbish because, I know more than they do. And then a final closing idea, including a final line that will stay with your audience, something that's punchy, that really makes them think. Rhetorical question. Think back to Leonardo DiCaprio when he said, do you want to be the person that is lauded and applauded for being so brilliant, or do you want to be the person that is vilified and turned into the villain because you did nothing? Think about that final closing idea. So what you're going to do now is you are going to pause this video and you're going to go and get that planning sheet, and you are going to plan your speech. Pause it. Okay, so hopefully you've planned your speech and now you're coming back to this. And the next thing is sharing your ideas. Again, get your phone, pause the video, have a chat with a friend, maybe somebody who's also not in school, maybe send a picture of your plan to a friend and talk about what you're doing with it. Which bits are you stuck on? Which bits are you confused on? Share your idea with your teacher. Send us a picture of it. Say, I'm stuck at this point, miss, what can I do? Yeah? Show my homework comments aren't just for getting feedback on, they're for getting help with. I don't understand what I'm doing. This is what I've got so far. How can you help me, miss? Okay, so you're going to pause it. You're going to go and do that thing now. Okay, and you're coming back to me now. Now, we've got a final call down here, but before we do this, I do want to explain to you what your home learning task is going to be. Hopefully, with that plan, you're now in a position where you can write your speech. Now, there are a couple of stages of writing your speech. The first is the obvious one, write it. But then once you've done that, you need to practice it. You need to think about, do you want pictures up on the board? Send the pictures to your teacher so they can put them up on the board for you. Make a little PowerPoint presentation if you need to. Do you want cue cards? At which point, make yourself some cue cards, with a couple of sentences on each one, so you're focusing on your audience. It is very, very difficult to get anything above a pass if you are reading from a script, okay? Because you need to be able to engage your audience, and part of that is looking at them, okay? So think very carefully about how you're actually going to take your plan from a written speech into a spoken speech, okay? Now, final thing for this lesson is a little bit of a cool down. I'd like you, if you have already written it, I'd like you to go through and I'd like you to highlight where you found these things. But if you haven't finished writing your speech yet, I'd like you to write these things now. So I'd like you to write the opening line of your speech, an epistrophe for your speech, and a rhetorical question for your speech. Okay. Thank you very much, Year 10. Thank you for listening. Give me a shout if you need any help. Give your teachers a shout if you need any help. And I will see some of you in class. Probably already seen some of you in class. And those of you I'm not seeing, I will see you soon. Bye-bye.